So today we're going to discuss the lesson in chapter 6, which is the work and the kinetic energy. So we've discussed already about uh, what are the vectors, what are the forces, what are the Newton's first law of motions. Now we come to this point where we're going to introduce another physical quantity called the work, kinetic energy, and power. So our reference is the University of Physics with Modern Physics, 15th edition. So you can have it downloaded online so that you can uh, read it and have as a reference to this lesson. So before we start, let's have a disclaimer. Okay, this content is intended for educational purposes only. Some materials has been adapted under fair use. Okay. So before we go to the discussion of the work and the kinetic energy and power, or the very chapter, let's go back and recall uh, let's go back to chapter 1, section 1.10. We discussed there about the products of vectors. So let's review it, or let's learn it. So what is a scalar product of two vectors? Scalar product is also known as the dot product. Okay, also called or scalar product or the dot product. So suppose we have two vectors. Suppose we have a vector A. This is our vector A, and this is our vector B. Okay. Suppose that's our two vectors. The scalar product of the scalar product of the two vectors A and B is just equal to A dot B is just equal to the magnitude of A. Okay, the product of the two vectors, or the scalar product of two vectors A and B, is just equal to A dot B is equal to the magnitude of A times the magnitude of B cosine of phi. Now, what is cosine phi? Okay, cosine phi. So if we put the vectors tail to tail, if you look at the vectors tail to tail, so for example, this is our Cartesian. So let's put vector A here, and this is vector B. Okay, we can see that it has an angle phi. Okay, so we can say that phi is just the angle between A and B. Vector A and in other term, A dot B and A dot B is just equal to AB, or the magnitude of A, which is just equal to A, the magnitude of B, cosine of phi, where phi is just the angle between A and B. So if you put the two vectors tail to tail, so it's being exaggerated here, then then the dot product of the two vectors A and B is just equal to A times B cosine of phi, where phi is the angle between vector A and vector B. So it is called the scalar product because the dot product of the two vectors is scalar. This is a scalar, not a vector. It has no direction. It only has a magnitude. So that is the definition of the scalar product of two vectors. Now, what if your vector is in component forms? Say, for example, you have vector A. Instead of that form, you have a component form. We have ax I hat, ay j hat plus az k hat. And you have here the b is equal to bx I hat plus by j hat plus az k hat. Okay. If this is the case, then a dot b, or the product of the two vectors in terms of components, is just equal to ax bx plus ay by plus az bc. So the derivation of this is, you can find the derivation of this uh, these equations in the book. I will not derive this here, but I trust that you will study it, you will read the book, and practice how did we came to this formula, where the scalar product of the vectors is just the sum of the products of their respective components. Okay, so we have two formula. Number one is that a dot b is equal to the magnitude of a times the magnitude of vector b cosine of phi, or this is equal to ab cosine of phi, where, for example, this is a, where phi is the angle between a and b. In component form, we have a dot b, which is equal to ab ax bx plus ay by plus az bc. So doon lang, this two is the thing that we are going to use when dealing with products of two vectors. Okay. So we have here an example 1.9. This is about calculating the scalar product. So the problem says that find the scalar product a that b of the two vectors in figure 1.28. The magnitudes of the two vectors is given by a is equal to 4 and b is equal to 5. Okay. If you look at this, if we look at our equation, try to look at this one. So a here is 50 degrees from the positive x-axis, and b is 130 degrees from the positive x-axis. If you want to find the angle between two vectors, or the phi, it follows that, okay, it follows that phi is equal to 130 degrees minus 3.0 degrees. So this is equal to 77. Okay, so the angle between A and B is just 77 degrees. From the formula, since we want to find the scalar product, from the formula, okay, A dot B is just equal to the magnitude of A, which is A B cosine of phi, which is 4.00, tapos 5.00 cosine of 77 degrees. If we do the calculation, cosine 77. So we get 4.999, so on. Okay, however, if we follow the rules in determining the significant figures, so this has three significant figures. So our answer must be in three significant figures. 5.00. A dot B is just equal to 5. I mean, uh, 4.5, 4.50. So round off, so 4.50. Okay. Okay. How about, say for example, this A is given by, so we know if you recall A, this vector A is just equal to A x I hat plus A y j hat, or this is equal to A, this A cosine 53 degrees I hat plus A sine 53 degrees j hat, and where this is equal to 2.407, okay, I hat plus 3.149 j hat. Okay, so we did not find out. We have here four significant figures. If we are not yet in the final answer, uh, uh, we are allowed to have as many significant figures as possible, so that we can have an accurate answer. Okay. For B, we have B cosine of 130 degrees I hat plus B sine of 130 degrees j hat. So where this is, uh, this is a Bx I hat plus Byj hat, like just like this. The z component is 0, where this is equal to negative, the x component is negative 3.214 I hat plus 3.830 j hat. Okay, those are my, this is my ax, this is my ay, this is my bx, and this is my by. Okay. So in this form, if the vectors are given in this form or components, then A dot B, using the formula ax bx plus ay by, since we have az bz, since we have no z components, so we can take this one is equal to 0. So therefore our ax is 2.407. The bx is negative 3.214 plus, so let's put this one, plus the ay, which is 3.149 times, is it 149 or, hmm, I'm sorry, this is 3.195. 3.195, and the by is 3.830. So if you compute this one, so we have 2.407 times negative 3.214 plus 3.195 times 3.830. So we have 4.50. So our answer is, so whether it is in this form, you can do this formula, but it is in component form, you can also use the component formula for the scalar product of two vectors. Again, our answer is a scalar, no direction. It only have magnitudes. So we have another example. This is quite long. So where you're asked to find the angle with the and finding an angle with a scalar product. Okay. So find the angle between the vectors A and B. So given this value, you're asked now to find the angle between these two vectors. Okay. If you recall, the formula is just A dot B is given by AB cosine phi. Since this is our target variable, then we divide both sides by AB. So we have cosine of phi is just equal to A dot B over AB. So the magnitude of A times the magnitude of B. So therefore the theta is equal to cosine times A dot B over A. Okay. So we will know the angle between these two vectors if we know the A dot B, if we know the magnitude of A, if we know the magnitude of B. Okay. To get the A, as we recall, A is just equal to 2.00 squared. The magnitude of A is just equal to 3.00 squared plus 1.0 squared. So how much is this? So we have 2 squared plus 3 squared. So let's just, so this is enough. Square root of 14 is enough. So the magnitude of B, just the square root of negative 4.00 squared plus 2.00 squared plus, so another negative. Because of the squared, they will become positive. So we have square root of 21. Okay. So now we need to find, we have this one already. We have this one. We need to find A dot B. Okay, as you recall, A dot B is just equal to the AB, AX, BX plus AY, BY plus AZ, BZ. So AX is 2.00. The BX is negative 4. The AY plus, and I have 2.00 plus 1.00 times negative 1 point. So we have plus, we have negative 3 point. zero, zero. Okay. So since we have A dot B, we have the magnitude of A and magnitude of B, then we can get the theta, the angle between two vectors, is just equal to the square root of, cosine negative 1. So we have negative 3.00 over the square root of 14 times the square root of 21. So how much is that? Shift cosine of the negative 3 square root of 14 times the square root of 21. Okay. So we have our answer 100.077. Okay. So since our given is in three significant figures, so our answer must be in three significant figures. 100 degrees. So those are the problems involving the scalar product of two vectors. So we see we have two vectors. We multiply the two vectors. Okay, what are the possible applications for this kind of theory? Okay, let's go. So what if, say for example, the A is a force and B is a displacement. So if we multiply the force and displacement, what will be our what would be the resulting product? What kind of quantity is that? So okay, now we go to the concept of work. This is the application of the scalar product of two vectors. So let's define first. uh, let's go to chapter 6 now. Okay. So we have a work. Let's define what is a work. Okay. So say for example, I have this an object. Okay. I applied a constant force on the object. Okay. And this is a uh, constant. So this is very important. Constant force is applied to the object. So the force is being applied to the object and it undergoes what we call this one as a straight line displacement. So it undergoes as so you have a particle here with mass m. You applied a constant force. So what happens that it undergoes a displacement. Okay. Then we define that the work done by the force. Okay. So the work done by a force, the work done by the force on the particle is defined to be the scalar product of F and S. Okay, this is the work or W is just equal to the scalar product of the force times the displacement. Okay, so in this particular case, so since the F and S are parallel, okay, they have the same direction. So we have F, okay, the magnitude. From our latest discussion, we have the magnitude of the force, magnitude of displacement, cosine of the angle between them. Since they are pointing, so if this is our positive x, so they have the same direction. Okay, so we have f s cosine of 0, which is this is equal to 1. So we have the force times the displacement. So this is only if, so the work is defined to be the scalar product of the force times the displacement. Okay, if we have the same direction, then the work is equal to force times the displacement. The magnitude of force equal to times the magnitude of the displacement. Okay, so what will happen now if we have the force is, there's an angle, the force is acting up with an angle. Okay, so suppose this is a straight line. Okay, suppose this is straight x. Okay, again, it undergoes a displacement from here to here. Okay. And and our force is, we apply the force with an angle of phi. Okay. So our work in this particular case is just equal to f that s is equal to f times s cosine of phi. Okay. So in this particular case, f must be constant. Okay. Dapat f is constant and s must be in a straight line. S must be a straight line. Okay. So therefore, the work is just equal to the force times the displacement. Okay. If I read it clearly, when a force, when a constant force acts on an object, a particle that undergoes a straight line displacement, the work done by the force or the work done by this force, okay, the constant force on the particle is defined to be the scalar product of F and S. Okay. The unit of work, what is the unit of work? The unit in SI. Okay. So we have force, we have so the we have F. So since we have this one force, the unit, they have meter, so Newton meter. So 1 Newton meter is equal to 1. Okay, we call this one J or 1 joule. So the unit of work is joule. Okay. So this is a scalar. Work is a scalar quantity. It has no direction, only magnitude. Okay. So let's apply this to a problem. So we have a problem, example 6.1. Okay, the work done by a constant force. Okay. So Steve exerts a steady force of a magnitude 210 Newton on the stalled car in figure 6.3. Okay. Actually, the figure 6.3 looks like this. Okay, wait a minute. Figure 6.3 look like this. So we have a car. We have a car undergoes a displacement. Okay. So we have here S from here. It undergoes a straight line displacement along X. And we have a force F like this. That's that's what figure 6.3 have. This is the car. Okay, the car undergoes a displacement acted by a force with an angle phi from the positive x-axis. Okay. So the Steve exerts a steady force of 200 Newton on a stalled car in the figure as he puts it at a distance of 18 meter. So the magnitude of S here, or just S, is equal to 18 meters, two significant figures. And the magnitude of force also is given, or just F, is equal to 210 Newton. The question now is that the car also has a flat tire, so to make the car track straight, Steve must push at an angle of 30 degrees to the direction of motion. So, given the angle between the force and the displacement to be 30 degrees. Okay. The question for letter A is how much work does Steve do in this particular case? From our discussion, the work is just the scalar product of, uh, okay, F and S, provided that this is constant, must be constant, and this is as in straight line displacement. S must be in straight line displacement. Okay, SD, straight line displacement. So this is equal to the magnitude of F times the magnitude of the force times the magnitude of the displacement, the cosine of the angle between them, or F S cosine of 30 degrees. Okay. So the force is 210 Newton times 18 meters cosine of 30 degrees. So if you do a calculation, to 10 times 18 times cosine of 30 degrees. So we got 3,273.6 joules. Okay. Since our given is two significant figures, so our final answer must be in two significant figures. 3.3, okay, 1, 2, 3 times 10 to the 3 joules. Okay. So 3 times 10 to the 3 joules. So that's why it was run. That's the reason why the book have those values instead of writing this one. Okay, so letter B, in a helpful mode, Steve pushes a second stalled car with a steady force of 160 Newton I hat minus 400 Newton J hat. So we can see that they are using now components. This is now in component form. The displacement of the car, okay, is now in component form also. 14 meter I hat plus 11 meter J hat. How much work does Steve do? Okay, if we recall, the work is just F dot S. Okay, so if we recall, uh, we have the A dot B is equal to AX BX plus AY BY plus AZ BZ. Is it has no Z component, only X and Y components. So it looks like this actually. Okay. F has the vector F has like this. Fxi hat plus fyj hat fzk hat. Okay. 0. For the displacement, you have s x I hat plus y g hat plus z k hat. Okay, this is equal to 0. Therefore, if you look at this one, apply that formula. So you have f of x times x plus f of y, the components of the force times y. Okay, so we have 160 Newton times 14 meters, again, two significant figures, plus negative 40 Newton times 11 meter. Okay, what's the final answer? Okay. So the final answer is 160 times 14 plus negative 40 times 11. So 1,800 joules. Okay. If written in three significant figures, 1.8 times into significant figures, joule. Okay. Okay. The work that in part A, the work that Steve do is around 3.3 times 10 to the 3 joules. And to B, the work is equal to 1.8 times 10 to the 3 joules, 1,800 joules or Newton meter. Okay. So another example for the one concept of work. Okay. This specific example give us the work done by several forces. Okay. What is the work done by several forces? Okay. So a farmer hitches her tractor to a sled loaded with firewood and pulls it at a distance of 10 meters along the level ground. This is shown in the figure. The total weight of the sled and load is 14,700 Newton. The tractor exerts a constant 5,000 Newton force at an angle of 36.9 degrees above the horizontal. A 3,500 Newton force opposes the sled's motion. Find the work done by each of the forces acting on the sled and the total work done by all the forces Okay. To do this, let's draw the free body diagram. Free body diagram of the sled. If you're the sled, what are the forces acting on you? So you have the X, okay, and Y. Okay. Of course, there is a normal force. So you put here a normal force, and you have also a weight force. Okay. Okay, also a weight force. And you have a friction force also opposing the motion, F of K, or just F, friction. And another one is the tension the tractor exerts. Okay, the force of the tractor. Okay, so we know that this is at an angle of 36.9 degrees, and this is about 5,000 Newton. The weight is 7,400 Newton. So you can calculate the mass of that. And this one is about 3,500 Newton. Okay. So if you count this one, there are four forces acting on the sled. And say, for example, it undergoes displacement with a magnitude of 20 meter. Okay. So the displacement is along the x-axis. Padulong siya sa x-axis because along the level ground. Okay. So what is now the work done by each of the forces? Let's start with the normal force. Okay. So the work done by normal force N is equal to the force times the displacement. Normal force times the displacement. So where it is defined to be the magnitude of N times the magnitude of S, which is 20 meters, cosine of the angle between them. Okay. If you look at this one, okay, this is X, this is Y. This is the displacement along X. And the normal force is this one. This is the normal force. The angle between them is 90 degrees. Cosine of 90 degrees, this is just equal to 0. Therefore, the work done by the normal force is equal to actually 0. So, uh, if you if there are forces perpendicular, which is 90 degrees, the angle between the displacement and that force is 90 degrees, or it is perpendicular to the displacement, then automatic the work done by that force is equal to 0. It's not, that is not, it doesn't, it does not have a value of work. Okay. How about the weight force? The weight force. Okay, what is the work done by the weight force? So the work done by the weight force is equal to the weight times the displacement, or the magnitude of the weight times the magnitude of the displacement. So if you look at the angle between them, this is the displacement along X, and this is the weight force along that, and the angle between them also is 90 degrees. This is also 0. So like I said before, if it's perpendicular to the motion, then that force, the work done by that force is 0. Okay. Now let's go to the friction force. For the friction force, we have, by definition, the work done by the friction is just equal to uh, the friction force times the displacement. Okay. So if you look at this one, this is the displacement and this is the friction force. The angle between them is 180 degrees. Okay. So we have the friction force, the magnitude times the displacement, cosine of 180 degrees. This is actually negative 1. Okay, this is negative 1. So we have 3,500 Newton times 20 meters times negative 1. Okay, so we have 70,000 joules, negative 70,000 joules. Or how about now, or this is equal to, into significant figures, 7, 7.0, negative 7.0 times 10 to the 4 joules. So sa letter D, for the force exerted by the tractor. Okay. So the work done by the force exerted by the tractor is just the force times the displacement. So this is equal to 100 so on, 1,000 Newton times 20 meter cosine of 36.9. So this is equal to about 79,968.5 joules. Okay, but in two significant figures, this is actually 8.0, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the 4 joules. So we have 80,000 joules for the, and we have negative 70,000 joules for the friction and 80,000 joules for the force exerted by the tractor. Those are the work. Okay. So this one is, it's, if it's opposing the motion, it is doing a negative work. If it's perpendicular, the work done is 0. And if it's uh it could be parallel or at an angle, then it is positive. The work done, that is positive. As long as the angle is less than 90 degrees from 0 to from 0 but less than 9, from 0 to less than 90 degrees. Okay. The work is positive. Okay. So what is now the total work done? Okay. You're asked here, what is the total work done by the force? What the total work done by all the forces? Okay. We have here the work total is just the sum of all the work done by the normal force, work done by the weight force, plus the work done by the friction force, work done by the the force of the tractor, which is, this is equal to 1.0 times 10 to the, this is equal to 0 times 10 to the 4 joules, or we have 10,000 joules. Okay, the final answer is this one. Mga 10,000 joules. Okay, because so the total work done by all the forces acting on the sled is 10,000 joules. Okay. Now, let's go to the kinetic energy and the work energy theorem. So, what are the relationship of the total work and what are the relationship of the total work and the velocity or the speed of a particle? Let's say, for example, Okay, let's copy this first. The kinetic energy and the work energy theorem. So what is the relationship between those two? So say for example, we have here a particle. Okay. So example, you exert a force on this particle F at it undergoes a displacement. Exerted a force, it undergoes a displacement. If you look at the free body diagram, the weight, the normal force, and the force, okay, along that one. So if you push to the right, okay, if you push okay, to the right, the on the block, if you push to the right on the block as it moves, the net force on the block is to the right. Diba? Ang net force under Newton's second law, the net force is to the right. Okay. So this relationship is that the total work done on the block during the displacement is positive. So positive work. The work total is zero, positive. So meaning, if your work total is positive, your particle is speeding up. So what happened is speed up. So when your work total is positive, your particle is speeding up. So you have a v in this direction, speeding up. So however, if you say for example this is a v, if the work total, if you up if this is the motion, this direction, the speed is, and you apply a force in this direction, okay, you look at the free body diagram, okay, normal force, this is the force, this is the positive x. So here, the work total is negative. It's less than zero. Okay. So what happens to your particle actually here is your speed now, v, your speed slows down. It slows down. Okay. In situation C, okay, if this is your in this direction, your speed is in that direction. If you apply a force in that direction, okay, since it is perpendicular to the displacement, this is minimum displacement, you have a displacement in that direction. So since the force is perpendicular to the displacement, so therefore the work total here is equal to zero. Okay. And your speed here remains the same, or maintains. Okay, let's review it. So if your work total is actually not zero, what happens to your particle? Speeds up. And if your work total is negative, then your particle is slowing down. But if your work total is zero, the particle is maintaining speed. So there is a relationship between the speed of the particle and the work total of the particle. Okay, so let's derive the relationship. Okay, so for example, we have a particle of mass m. Okay, this particle undergoes a displacement along the positive x-axis. Okay, it's applied by a net force F, which is constant. So, ang atong displacement is a straight line displacement. Okay, this is our positive x, for example. Of course, it has an initial position. It has what we call this final position. It has an initial speed. It has a final speed. Final. This is initial. Okay. So if it's a Newton's first law, if the net force is not equal to zero, then we have the mass times the acceleration. So along the x component, since there's no y component here, so we have f of x is equal to the mass times ax. So this is one is actually accelerating. It has an acceleration in this direction. That's in the direction of positive x. So since our acceleration is also constant, okay, acceleration is constant, then we can apply the kinematics equation. We can get that from v from from for example from instead of the speed v2 squared minus v1 squared is equal to 2 times the acceleration, 2 times the acceleration along x times s, or 2 times ax, x2 minus x1, or just s, the displacement. So therefore, we can get that the acceleration is just equal to 2 times, it's just equal to, if you divide both sides, if we divide both sides by 2 times s, 2 times s, then we can get that the acceleration ax here is just equal to 1 half v2 squared minus 1 half v1 squared over s. Okay, can do that. Can actually do this. Okay, this is the acceleration. Okay, so therefore the force is equal to uh, 1 half, or maybe it's good to put 1 half m v2 squared minus 1 half m v1 squared over the displacement s. Okay, and since the net force is equal to this one, therefore the work total is equal to the net force F times the displacement. So we have here Fx times the displacement S. So since this is our equal to Fx, so this is now equal to 1 half mv2 squared minus 1 half mv1 squared multiplied by divided by s multiplied by s. So we can cancel. So we have derived that the work total is equal to the 1 half mv2 squared minus the 1/2 mv1 squared. Okay. We call this relationship as the work energy theorem. So why is that? Okay, let's review this one. Okay, so the work total is equal to 1/2 mv2 speed, the final speed, minus 1/2 mv1 speed, where we use k is equal to 1/2 mv squared. We call that as the kinetic energy. We define as kinetic energy. Okay. Therefore, the work total is just equal to the final kinetic energy minus the initial kinetic energy. Or this is equal to the change of the particle's kinetic energy. So the work total, okay, that's why it is called the work energy, okay, theorem. If we analyze the kinetic energy K, the kinetic energy K for particle, it is actually equals to the amount of work required to accelerate a particle from rest, this is 0, okay, to a specific speed v. Okay. It is also equal to the amount of work the particle can do in the process of being brought to rest. The unit of kinetic energy, the unit is also in joules, or we have 1 kilogram times meter squared per second squared, or is equal to Newton meter. So the unit of kinetic energy is also the same unit as the work, Newton meter. Okay, so we have the work total is just equal to the change of the kinetic energy. Okay, so as uh, we define that if the work total is positive or not zero, greater than zero, then our particle will speed up. If our work total is negative, our particle will slow down, and if our work total is zero, it maintains its speed. And we've derived that the work total is just equal to the change of the particle's kinetic energy, where the kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mv squared. Okay, let's apply this to a problem. Okay, let's look again in the slide in figure 6.7. Okay, and our result in example 6.2. Okay, so recall that the work total here is 10 kilojoules, or about 1.0 times 10 to the 3 times 10 to the 4 joules, or about mga 10,000 joules. Okay, the weight is equal to 14,700 Newton. Therefore, the mass of this is equal to the weight over G, which is 14,700 times 9.8 meters per second. This is about 1,500 kilograms. Okay, let me check. Okay, one. So this is our results sa atong previous discussion. Okay. Suppose the sled has an initial speed v1 which is 2 meters per second. What is the final speed of the sled after it moves 20 meters? Okay, that's the question. Okay, so here, if we did not learn the work energy theorem, we would have used the uh, kinematics equation for this kind of problem, constant acceleration. But however, since we know already we have learned a new concept, concept, then we can answer this one using that new concept. Okay. Recall that the work total from the work energy theorem is the final kinetic energy minus the initial kinetic energy, or is the change of the particle's kinetic energy. So we have the work total, and we have the work K2 is equal to 1/2 mv2 squared. So this is our target variable. Okay. So from this equation here, the work total, if we want to find K2, K2 is just equally the work total plus K1. Okay. So what is K1? We know already the work total. K1 is just equal to 1/2 mv1 squared, which is equal to 1/2 times 1,500 kilograms times 2.0 meters per second squared. So we have 3,000 joules. So that is our K1. So therefore, our K2 is equal to 10,000 joules plus 3,000 joules is now become 13,000 joules. Okay. From this equation also, it follows that our V2 is just equal to the square root of 2 times K2 over M. 2 times K2 over M. Okay. So therefore, we can get the final speed, which is equal to the square root of 2 times 13,000 joules over 1,500 kilograms. So we have 4.2. So atong significant figures is 2. This is two significant figures. Therefore, our answer must be in two significant figures. So instead of 4.163 meters per second, we're gonna write 4.2 meters per second. Okay, this is how we apply the work energy theorem. If you know the work total, okay, since the work total is actually positive, is 10 kilojoules, so what will happen is that from 2.0 meters per second, our particle or the sled speed up. So within 20 meters, it speed up for about 2.2 meters per second. It becomes 4.2 meters per second. So we have a hammerhead problem. So unfortunately, I will not be able to answer this one because I will leave this to you as your exercise. Okay. The answer for this one, or the solution for this problem is in your book, page 179. It is also included in your problem set. Okay, just apply what we have learned in work energy theorem and concept of work. So far about we've discussed problems using constant forces. But what will happen if we are now dealing with varying forces, no longer constant? So what would happen if we are now dealing with work done, work, so varying forces? So what is now our uh, what would now be uh, equ- our work? Okay, for varying forces, okay, and for example, it is still moving in a straight line motion, then the work is equal for this kind of the work done by varying force. Okay, I'm gonna put this one. This is a straight line motion. Okay, so what will happen if the work now is no longer constant, but still moving in a straight line motion? So the work now, instead of given by the last time, so you're gonna use an integration. Okay, from x1 to x2, f of x, okay, dx. This is the lower limit. This is an initial position. This is the upper limit. It is the final position. So this is now the work done by a varying force, but uh, varying force, this is the work done on a particle by a varying force, x component of the force Fx during a straight line displacement. Okay, straight line displacement. This is a straight line displacement. Okay, what is the application for this? When can we say, when can we actually see, when can we actually see this one in real life? Okay, suppose we have a spring. Okay, so we have a concept here, Hooke's law. From Hooke's law, the force required to a spring is equal to kx. This is the force required to stretch a spring. Okay. According to Hooke's law, if you have a spring, if you want to stretch it, the force required to stretch a spring is equal to k times x, where k is the spring constant. So it varies, depends on the string. The unit of the spring constant is a Newton per meter. and x is the displacement. X is actually the displacement or the elongation. Okay. Okay. So let's apply this one. Okay. Let's okay. So we have this one already. So say for example, we have a spring, actual spring. So we have here an equilibrium. This is x. Okay. Suppose we have a spring here. So and this is the equilibrium position where if you want to stretch that spring into an uh, elongation x. Okay, from for example, this is the initial to x. If you want to, so this is equilibrium. Okay, we have this. We have this spring in equilibrium in this line at x sub o. I want to stretch this spring to from x sub o to x. So I apply the force F, which is I apply the force F, which is f of x, which is positive, equal to kx. This is the force required to stretch a spring. Okay. But Newton's third law states that there is also a force here. Okay. The spring also wants to restore itself. There is a force here of an opposite direction, which is equal to the negative of that f of x. So equal to the negative kx. Okay. If you apply the formula, so the work done by that example, this is equal to 0, and this is equal to just x at point x. So from the formula, the work done, for example, the work done by this force, okay, the work done by that force from 0, from x sub o is equal to 0, from x, okay, how did, from x, a specific value of x is equal to f of x dx. So this is equal to from 0 to x f. Since this is equal to kx, the work done by that force kx dx. So if you recall, the integral of t to the power of n is equal to uh, it's gonna do this. So we have t n plus 1 over n plus 1 plus c, where c is constant. Okay, so in this particular case, we have here 1. Uh, we have here actually dt. Okay, integral of t to the power of dt. So here, we have here the 1. So we can put out the k because that's constant from 0 to x dx. So from this formula, so it will follow that this is k. Okay. Uh, the formula here. So let's put this as prime. X prime is just equal to x 1 plus 1 over, because n here, n is equal to 1, 1 plus 1 integrated from x prime. This is at x prime integrated from 0 to x. So this is now equal to 1 half k x squared minus 1 half k 0 squared. This is equal to 0. This is the boundary. So you put this one first, substitute this one to the x prime minus the lower limit. So we have the work done is equal to 1 half k x squared in that specific case. Okay. Now suppose we have this case in figure 6.20. So we have like this, we have a spring, and this is the equilibrium position of the spring. Okay, you push this one, you stretch this one into the initial, this is stretch initially from position x1, you stretch this one up to position x2. Okay, there's a hand here, stretching that one up to x2. Stretching a spring from elongation x1 to x2. So therefore, our elongation here is this one. That's our elongation from x1 to x2. So let's find what is the work done on a spring. What is the work done on a spring? So meaning, uh, before s- be, for you to be able to stretch that from this point to this point, you applied a force which is equal to f of x kx. Okay. The work done by the string, meaning a force, is equal to kx. Okay. If you apply what we have learned, the work done in this particular case is equal to from initial position to the final position, okay, f of x dx, where this is equal to x1, x2, kx dx, where we can put k outside, x1, x2, constant, x dx. Okay, the integral for this one, so the work now is equal to, from the formula is k, the integral of this one is just x n, which is 1 plus 1 over 1 plus 1 times boundary from x1 to x2, which is equal to 1 half k x2 squared integral from x1 to x2 na boundary. Okay. So this now equal to, so let's put the upper limit to the x here. So we have 1/2 k x2 squared minus the lower limit 1/2 k x1 squared. Okay. So therefore the work done on a spring, okay, the work done on a spring is just equal to 1/2 k x2 squared minus 1/2 k x1 squared. Okay. So take note that it has also force here, the restoring force. F of x, negative f of x is equal to negative kx. Okay. If you want to find the work done by the spring, so we use the force F of force is equal to negative kx na force. Okay. So probably this is equal to the negative of that 1/2 k x2 squared minus 1/2 k x1 squared. We call this one as the work done by the spring, work spring, or sometimes we call this one work spring. So if the work done on the spring, so meaning ikaw ang kung ang imong gipangita is work done nga nag-exert nimo para ma-stretch ang spring mo ni siya 1/2 kx2 squared minus 1/2 kx1 squared. Pero kung ang gipangita nimo the work done nag-exert sa spring kani from that elongation is just the negative of this work done on a spring. We call this one the work done by the spring. Okay. Let's apply this one to a problem. Okay. So we have here an air truck glider of mass of 0.1 kilogram is attached to an end of a horizontal air truck by a spring force with force constant 20 Newton meter per meter. Initially, the spring is unstretched, and the glider is moving 1.50 meters per second to the right. Okay. In this problem class, we're just gonna answer the letter A. So find the maximum distance that the glider moves to the right. Okay. If the air track is turned on so that there's no friction, and that is the given. So take note, it has an initial velocity of 1.5 1.50 meters per second. Okay. What will happen if you apply an initial velocity? Of course, it will actually undergo a displacement, okay, with equal to a distance d, maximum displacement, the magnitude of that. It will go displacement, mag-displace na siya. So ang imong glider, ato ra kang dire lang anta. So ang atong glider class, instead nga nana siya diha, so nana siya dire. Okay. So gikan dire x1 padulong siya sa is equal to 0, padulong siya dire sa x2 which is equal to d. Okay. So of course kay na may, so pag initial velocity, so mainat siya diha Tapos ang spring po ani siya mag-spring. Because of the spring, ang imong final ana is equal to zero nga naman kay although pag-apply sa imong initial velocity, you will undergo a displacement into a maximum where if you reach that maximum displacement, you will stop where your final velocity is equal to zero. So the problem is that find this maximum distance. You can your glider can reach if there's no friction. Actually, there's no friction, and if the initial velocity is given by that, and is the spring is actually 20 Newton per meter and 1.0 kilogram ang mass. Okay. If we draw the free body diagram for the glider, so actually we have here a force, of course, F spring. Since this is the this is coming this is the let's go back here. This is actually this one, the work spring. This is actually this is actually equal to the negative kx. Okay, that's the value of that. We also have a normal force. Okay, normal force. And we have the the weight force. Okay, this is our x. This is the free body diagram. And of course, we have the initial kinetic energy at this point. But at x2, we have the final kinetic energy, which is equal to 0. So therefore, we have a work total here is equal to k2 minus k1. This is equal to 0 because the final velocity speed is 0. Is equal to the negative k1 is equal to negative 1 half mv1 squared. Okay, the work total here, negative 1 half mv1 squared. Okay. We also note that the work total here, okay, the work total is equal to the change of the kinetic energy. The work total also here, from our discussion, is also the work done from normal force plus the work done by the weight force, which is we know that's perpendicular to the displacement, and that's the displacement. This is equal to 0 plus the work spring. Okay. So as we have discussed, the work total here is equal to the work spring. Only the spring is doing work. Since since the force that's acting on here is the restoring force, is negative kx. It's not this one. It's not this one. We are actually is actually interested by the work done by the spring, which is given by this one. Okay, this is actually negative 1 half k x2 squared minus 1 half k x1 squared. Since we know that x1 is equal to 0, then therefore, and x2 is equal to d, therefore this is equal to negative 1 half k d squared. Okay, that the work total. Since the work total is equal to this one and the work total is equal to this one, so you can equate that one. Therefore, negative 1 half mv1 squared is equal to negative 1 half kd squared. And cancel this one. Okay. So therefore, the maximum distance t, if we divide both sides by k, so d is actually the square root of m v1 squared over k, or the maximum distance is actually v1 square root of m over k. So this is now equal to, so if we want to get the d, our velocity is 1.50 meters per second, square root of the mass, which is 0.1 kilogram, over the spring constant, which is 20.0 Newton per meter. So the maximum distance 0.1006 meters. So that is the maximum distance. As you can see, the distance is a function of the initial velocity, and it is also a function of the mass and the spring constant. Okay. So meaning the motion is affected, or the the distance maabot niya, sabot pa sa Bisaya, ang iyang distance nga maximum is affected, is a function by the initial velocity sa imong mass, magdepende siya sa imong mass, magdepende sa imong initial velocity, magdepende po siya sa imong spring constant. So muna siya. Okay. So what if now you are actually moving around the curve, or you are actually uh, doing a non-constant force. Okay. So we have now the general definition of work. General definition. General definition of work. Okay. So this is now applicable for varying force and for non-constant motion. Okay, the work in general definition of work is just equal to from P1 to P2. Okay, F dot dl. Okay, so what is this? So this is a displacement dl, and they have the force. We have here the initial position and the final position. This is now the work done on a particle by a varying force F along a curve. So din na siya. So this is also equal to from P1 to P2 F cosine phi times dl, or this is equal to from P1 to P2 F perpendicular parallel dl. So component of F parallel to dl. Okay. So for example, this is your point 1. and this is your path here, moving along the curve. At this point too, you are you are if you have a force acting on that in this direction, and you have a DL here with an angle of phi. So that's why F dot DL is just equal to F cosine theta DL, where this one is the phi here is the angle between the DL and the infinitesimal displacement. So another term, this one is this is the general definition of work. It's applicable to all. Okay. So for example, sa spring, iba't naman tayo spring, the work done by the spring came from, instead of P1, which is equal to X1, P2 is equal to X2, F dot DL. Okay. So, ang atong DL sa for the spring, ganina, for the spring, so, di ba ang atong F of X, ang, ang force nato is, ang F nato is just equal to F of X I hat plus 0 J hat plus 0 K hat, and our DL is just straight line, which is equal to uh, dx I hat plus dy j hat plus dck hat. So this is 0, this is 0, dx I hat. So this is actually x1 to x2, since our f of x, since di ba ang atong f dot dl is equal to f of x dx plus 0, wala man siya x of y components, f of x dx. Okay. So, so, so kung spring na to ganina is kx, so muna to makuha na to tong work done by the spring. So this is an example how you apply this one. Straight line siya, so application. Okay. Let's go now to our last definition of last topic, which is the power. What is power actually? Power is the time rate of doing work. So we have one, the average power, which is equal to this one over, where this one is the work done during the time interval, or this is the time interval. We call this one as the average power. During time interval. Okay. We also have instantaneous power, P, where P is equal to the limit of the work done during the time interval over the time interval as the time interval approaches to 0, or this is equal to the dw over dt, time rate of doing work. Another definition of power, instantaneous power, is just this. It is the scalar product of force times the velocity. We have the force is the force that acts on the particle. This is the instantaneous power for force doing work on the particle. So we have one, two, and three equation for power. Okay. What is the unit of power? Okay. So the unit of power is 1 watt, or we call this 1 watt. This is equal to 1 joules per second. So 1 watt, 1 joules per second. Okay, because the work done during the time interval. Okay, that's the definition of power. That is the time rate of doing work. Okay, for example, so another useful, we have also, we can in terms of the horsepower, or 1 HP or horsepower, this is actually equal to 746 watt, or this is equal to 0.76746 kilowatt. Ang isa ka horsepower, another unit of power, is equal to 746 watt. Okay, that's a useful conversions. Okay. So we have now each of the four jet engines in an Airbus A380 airline develops a thrust of around 3,000 Newton. When the airplane is flying at 250 kilometers per hour, what is the horsepower does each engine develop? Okay. So the horsepower, so from the definition, so naka-jet engine, naka-thrust. Okay, if you have an engine here, this is the thrust here. So the same line as the X, and we have actually here, you are moving in the also in this direction, your velocity in the X direction. So opposite. So so they have the same direction. So this is thrust here. So you are being pushed by in that equation. Okay. So we have just force times the velocity. In this case, they have the same direction. We have F times V cosine of 0, or just FV. So we have the force is 32200 Newton times 250 meters per hour. So we have 8.05 times 10 to the 7 uh, joules per second, or 8.05 times 7 watt. Okay. So what horsepower does? Okay. 1 HP is just equal to 746 watt. Okay, so to convert the 8.05 into horsepower, multiplied 1 horsepower is equal to 746 watt equals divided by, so this is 1.08 times 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 horsepower. That's the horsepower. Okay, so I will leave this another example to you. So that's the end of our discussion. So in summary, we discussed the work done for the constant force is equal to the scalar product of S. We also have the work done by a varying force, which is equal to from what else? We've discussed the work energy theorem. Is the work total is just equal to the change of the particle's kinetic energy, or 1/2 mv1 squared minus mv2 squared minus 1/2 mv1 squared. We discuss also the general definition of work, P1 to P2, the work total is equal to F dot BL. We also discussed the power equal to F dot B, or naputay average power. So we've discussed that one. Okay, so see you in our quiz. I hope you enjoyed the video. So God bless everyone. So this is now the end of our video.